Hey, I get asked this question all the time. Hey, if my house is in a flood zone, or if I like a home that's in a flood zone, could it potentially be underwater? Yeah, it could. So stay tuned. I am going to give you some helpful information about flood zones here in Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, so before I get into this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and make sure you hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time I drop a video like this, because I put out a video once a week. And make sure you comment on this video because I reply to all of my comments. So let's jump right into flood zones. And I'm gonna make this very simple as I think it should be. When it comes to flood zone in the Charleston, South Carolina area, you want to definitely do your research because you want to make sure you know what flood zone you are in. We have flood zone A and B, which is one of the highest levels of flood zones. They are considerably higher when it comes to premiums on your insurance because they are considered the highest hazard areas when it comes to flooding. So when you see a flood zone area of a property that you are interested in and it is in A or a V flood zone, just remember you will be paying higher flood insurance premiums. For one, flood insurance is required in those areas and the premiums are higher. So now, let me tell you what A and V means in flood zones. So any flood zone with the A in front of it means you are most likely to have flooding at your property. Doesn't necessarily mean your home itself will be flooded, but the property itself could potentially hold a large amount of water where the water could rise. Now, when you're looking at properties in Charleston, South Carolina, most of the properties that are in flood zones A and V are usually, if they are new constructions, they are usually built up high. So you will see them kind of built up on stilts, or they're elevated so that you have probably like your driveway or your garage underneath. We don't have basements here because of flooding. So you would have your garage underneath and then the house starts basically like on a second floor, which would be the first floor of the home. And those homes are elevated that way for that reason, because they are potentially in a flood zone and also it's required in that area, especially if the home is a newer construction. Now, some homes are in flood zones that are not built up like that and are just on a concrete slab, but they have probably been built, they're a little older, pre-owned homes built at earlier times or times before the requirements to have it elevated was implemented. So sometimes the homes that are built on slabs, they are still in a flood zone. And if you go to renovate those homes or do any type of major construction on those homes, you will probably be required to elevate the home at that time. But because it's already pre-existing and it's been there, it's not required unless you decide to do some type of renovation usually. But those homes are definitely at risk of flooding, and because they're not built up on stilts, they have a very high chance of water going into the home. So when you see any property that has an A in front of it, just make sure you are aware of the fact that property requires flood insurance. The premiums are probably higher and there is risk of flooding in that area. Now, when you see a flood zone with a V in front of it, interesting, right? Remember, A and V are the highest levels. They're the most hazardous when it comes to flood. But when you see a V in front of a zone, that means that there could be a potential wave current that could destroy your home. I know, a wave current. So if you live near any bodies of water that could possibly have a wave storm, you would be required to have the insurance that covers wave storms, and those are usually with the flood zone of the letter V in front of them. So do your homework, make sure, because even if you're not really close to a body of water, you could be maybe close to a lake, or you could be close to something that could potentially rise when it's high tide, or if heavy rain occurs, or if there's a storm and your property could potentially be flooded. I know it sounds scary, but always do your homework. That's why it's very important to have a real estate agent that knows the area. So remember, A and V, be very careful, do your homework, check your flood insurance premiums, because in those areas it's required, and make sure you have all the information you need on that area when it comes to flooding to make a decision. Now, Zone X and D. Zone X and D are the minimum risk of flooding areas. So they hold the least amount of premiums when it comes to your insurance. Helpful tip, no matter what zone you are in, you should always have flood insurance. X and D are the lower risk ones. Yes, absolutely. But you still would want to have flood insurance in those areas, because you never know. Areas that normally don't flooded in the 100-year storm that we had in 2015. Everyone was surprised. So some people did not have flood insurance because that area was in an X or D zone and it never flooded. But during the 100-year flood, it flooded. So nowadays, I just tell all of my buyers and sellers, just carry a policy for just in case. Remember, this is the South Carolina. We are surrounded by water, so you want to always have yourself covered. So with Zone X and D, minimum insurance premiums, so you won't have a very high premium when it comes to acquiring flood insurance. It's a slim chance of flooding. Not saying it will not flood, but there's a slim chance of it flooding. These areas are usually higher when it comes to the land elevation, and they're not that close to any surrounding bodies of water. So you get less flooding in those areas where there are X's and D's. Now, some areas are not, they're not even sure about the floodplain for that area. So always check your map, call and do your research just to make sure you are making the right decision for you and your property. Well, I just wanted to briefly go over flood insurance, because I can get into details about this if you want to reach out to me, and we can talk further about flood zones in the areas and the different A's and the different V's when it comes to flood, because there is different A flood zones and there's different V flood zones. But no matter what, if it's an A or a V, you need to be prepared to pay higher premiums for your flood insurance policies, and those areas require flood insurance. I hope this video has been helpful for you. And like I said, reach out to me if you have any questions about flood zones. It could definitely be something that would make or break a deal when you're purchasing a home. So make sure you do your research. I can't stress that enough to you. Make sure you do your research to make sure this is the right property for you, and also that the premium is affordable for you, because it will be factored into your monthly expenses when it comes to your mortgage. Well, again, I'm Carmilla Renee, and I am a licensed real estate agent, born and raised right here in Charleston, South Carolina. So if you have any questions about buying, selling, or investing in real estate here in the Charleston area, reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation with you. I love bringing you helpful tips and fun facts about my home state, South Carolina. Don't forget, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell so that you are notified when I drop a video, and make sure you comment and like this video. Love chatting with you guys. Until next time, thank you for watching.